Hi, and welcome to Long Live the Queen, where we talk about the women who made history. And by we, I mean the royal we, because it's just me. Today, we're going to talk about Grace O'Malley, the Irish pirate queen.
Ooh.
One day we will be remembered.
Usually, it's just me, but today I have my friend Rob here with me. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Tina. Thanks for having me again.
Yes, this is going to be fun. Are you excited about Grace O'Malley?
I am. I'm excited about the idea of a pirate queen.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So, Grace O'Malley is her anglicized name.
Oh.
She likely was not known as Grace in her lifetime.
Makes sense.
She probably would have been known as Grania.
That's like the Irish version, I guess? Or...
Yeah, it's the Gaelic version.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. She was born in the year of our Lord 1530. So that would be during the reign of King Henry VIII.
Oh, okay.
King Henry VIII was the king of England, and he called himself the King of Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the... Ireland was split into clans. Some of the leaders of the clans agreed with him that, yes, he was the overlord of Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
But some clans did not. So it was a bit of a gray area of whether or not he was the King of Ireland. But he called himself the King of England, Wales, and Ireland.
Right, okay.
So he thought so. She was from a Western family, from the west coast of Ireland. They were less amenable to England being in charge of them. They wanted to be independent. And they were the most powerful family in Ireland for seafaring.
Okay. So they were like merchants or like...
Like the Greyjoys.
Okay, understood.
So their motto was powerful by land and sea.
Oh,
It's like they are the Greyjoys of the real world, whose motto is "We do not sow." That's what kind of the vibe these guys were.
Mm-hmm.
So her father was Owen O'Malley, or the O'Malley. If you're head of the O'Malley clan, you're the O'Malley.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And her dad was the O'Malley. So she was basically like princess of her clan. She was like a noble girl in Ireland. Her father made his money fishing, because he had a lot of boats.
Mm-hmm.
Trading, because he could get to Spain with his many boats.
Okay.
Mercenary work, because you could rent his boats to fight for you if you needed them. And piracy.
Of course.
And by piracy, 15th century piracy looks a little different. It's not like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
15th century piracy is he owns the water just outside his land. And if other ships want to come through that water,
Oh, sure, you just pay a tax.
then he says, these waters could be dangerous.
Right.
Would you like to pay me to protect you?
Right.
And if you say yes, then you're protected. And if you say no, then he probably just robs you.
Right. It's like a...
So, definitely piracy, but like local to his he's like, if they're going to come in my water.
Yeah, it's like when they go to a store and go, "That's a nice store you got here. Be ashamed if something happened to it."
Maybe it's like a toll bridge. Like, you gotta
Yes.
pay to play. So they were known for their piracy, but this wasn't like an illegal thing, really, at the time.
Well, I mean, who would be enforcing the law?
Exactly. Like, it was just like, this is, oh, okay, you want to go through his water? Don't want to pay him, don't go through his water. Go around, you know? And it was called black rent when they would make these protection payments.
Mm-hmm.
They would offer protection to anyone traveling in their waters. And as Catholics, they had a pretty good trading deal with Spain because England was no longer Catholic. Because Henry VIII had changed that so that he could get rid of his first wife.
Right.
But Ireland was so neglected that Ireland was still Catholic. Like, Henry VIII was the king, but he hadn't been like, you have to be an Anglican. So they're still Catholic. So they're trading on and off with Spain, which is kind of getting along with England at this point, but there are some tensions.
Right. I mean, was it illegal at the time to trade with Spain, or?
It wasn't, not at this time.
Okay, so that wasn't.
So they had a pretty good trading deal. But by this time, a big part of their business was smuggling Spanish wine into Ireland. which would be them, because if they didn't do it the official way, then the crown wasn't getting some of
Right.
the money. So they were illegally
Yeah, they're
smuggling.
dodging
They were
taxes,
smuggling,
yes.
yes. Dublin, the area of Dublin, they were mostly okay with England. They were like, yeah, we can get along with these guys, because they were a lot more anglicized anyways. They just had a lot more similar traditions. But Western Ireland, by Galway, was still very Irish. And the Irish that wasn't anglicized still wanted to be divided by clans. They liked this system. The way that clan chiefs were picked was usually it was the son of the last clan chief, but they were elected. So, say you got a dud.
Mm-hmm.
You could elect someone from a different family. You could elect anyone you wanted as long as they were part of that clan.
Nice.
So they did have a voting system in place. And they really liked that. But usually it would, like, the son of the chief would be the next one and the next one. It was just a fail-safe.
Right. In case you get a really weak or
Mm-hmm.
useless.
Like a really bad one.
Right.
And the main problem that Granya's family was running into in the O'Malley clan was that her father had one illegitimate son and one legitimate daughter. So they couldn't decide who would be the next O'Malley. But technically, either of them could be, because it was an election kind of a thing. This wasn't like strict succession laws. In 1542, King Henry declared himself King of Ireland, like officially. He was, I am King of Ireland. And that made Ireland a kingdom, according to England, as opposed to just a collection of clans. And he started a system that they called surrender and regrant. The O'Malleys were not into that. In order to surrender and regrant, they would have to, the O'Malleys would take their land, surrender it to King Henry VIII.
Oh.
He would then regrant it to them and make them lord of their land.
How generous.
Yes. And they would have to agree to a few things like, yes, we will be English now. We will teach our children English.
And they have to
We
convert.
will follow English succession laws. And yes, they have to convert to the Anglican religion. And no mustaches. Apparently having mustaches was like an Irish thing.
Oh. Facial hair. Okay.
No, because beards are fine.
Oh.
Yeah,
Just
just
mustache.
the solo mustache, I think, was looked at as like very Irish.
Oh, okay.
And King Henry VIII was like, no, we're not doing solo mustaches. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of agree with him in most cases. Not all cases, but most cases.
Okay.
One time I was on Facebook and I saw a really creepy guy. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I friends with a really creepy guy on Facebook? And then I realized it was my cousin with a mustache.
Oh. Was he like twiddling it or something?
No, it's not a good look.
Okay.
It's not a good look. So no mustaches, that's the other thing, in addition to all the other things. So this is the world that Grania is born into. And in 1542, she wanted to go on her father's boat. She was like...
So how old is she at this point?
She's about 12. So in 1542, she wanted to go on her father's ship. And her father said, no, girls can't go on the ship because they have long hair. And the long hair is going to get stuck in the ropes and the riggings and the sails.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, no, you can't go on the boat. Your hair's too long. So she's like, oh, that's an easy fix. And she basically cut her whole ponytail off. She had short hair. And she's like, now I can go. And her dad was like, oh, this sounds like something you say to your kids when you don't want them to do something. And you're like, oh, now what do I say? Like, oh, I guess you're right. You can go. Yeah. So she was on her father's ship. And from this point on, she wasn't known as Grania. She was known as Granuel, which basically means Grania with the shorn hair. So like Grania, bad hair,
right,
is now her new name because she cut off her long hair so she could go on the boat. And she was out on the boat with her half-brother, her dad's illegitimate son, and her father for 3 or 4 years. And then it was time for her to get married because that was basically her only job as the daughter of the clan chief.
Right.
Was to get married.
Right. form some kind of alliance or
Yeah,
something.
and she's like 15, 16 at this point. Like, she's getting up there in age.
Right, almost an old maid.
Yeah, she needs to get married. And she was marrying a man named Donald O'Flaherty. Now, Donald O'Flaherty was super into himself.
Oh,
He was loud and obnoxious and arrogant and crowed like a rooster. So he was known as Donald the Cock, which reminds me of Donald Duck, but
Yes.
Donald the Cock. That was his nickname. Because he was so cocky and loud.
all right.
And Donald had the Flatteries. They had like a blood feud with the Joyces, a different
Okay.
clan.
Okay.
And so they're fighting back and forth. So they've been married about 18 years at this point.
Oh, wow.
We skip
okay.
forward. Donald was killed in an ambush by the
Oh.
Joyces.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Also, I guess, so she's married.
Yeah, she's
But
like
she's-
35 now. That's right. Okay, yeah.
But she's not like leader of her clan yet.
She is not. She's not leader
Yeah,
of her
her
clan.
dad's
Her
still
dad's
alive.
still in charge.
Okay.
Yeah. So her husband was killed in an ambush. He was out hunting. The Joyces ambushed them. He was killed. And so his castle was known as Cock's Castle.
Okay.
And went straight to Joyce's, or they went straight to Cock's Castle because they killed him. So they were like, "Oh, we'll just take over his castle." Like his wife is there with his kids, but she's just a
Oh,
dumb lady.
right.
Like
Yeah.
she's not going to stop us.
Should be a pushover.
Yeah. But she defended Cock's Castle, and so they renamed it Hen's Castle because like
Oh, very clever.
she owned it. And she destroyed the Joyces. They had to run away.
Oh.
She was like, "No, you don't get my castle. Like, you killed my husband, you can't have my castle. Like, fuck off." And the O'Flahertys were probably super pumped about that, right? Like, "Oh, look at our daughter-in-law being a kick-ass awesome." Nope.
No.
They were like, "You can go."
Oh. They're like disappointed.
They're just like, I mean,
Or they have
you're
no
not an
use for it.
O'Flaherty.
Right. They just got no use
You're
for
an
her.
O'Malley. Yeah, you should
Okay.
probably go home to your parents.
All right.
Even though she has 3 kids.
Hmm.
They're just like, goodbye. I think she upstaged them, maybe.
Yeah. Made him look bad.
Mm-hmm. And she was entitled to bring with her all of her dower income. So there was like a set amount of stuff that she would get if her husband died. And it was usually roughly equivalent to whatever her dowry was coming into the marriage.
Okay. It's like life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
It's like a pension.
Okay.
Like all at once, though. Well, I guess that's more like life insurance. I don't know. So they sent her packing. But the Navy, the 200 men that worked for her husband on the boats,
Right.
they wanted to go with her.
Oh.
They were like, "We don't want to stay here with this lame. We want to work for Grace O'Malley. Grania is the way to go. That's who you want to work for." So 3 whole boats, 3 ships of men kind of defected and just followed her back to her land where her family was.
Oh.
And her dad was still B. O'Malley, so her family was still pretty wealthy, and they had a bunch of castles. So they were like, "Which one do you want? Just like pick a castle." She picked the castle on Clare Island, which is a pretty small island, but it was big enough to kind of house the encampment for her 200 pirates. So it was kind of like a pirate island.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, it was like a castle, a fortification, and she could house her 200 pirates there. And she kind of just built her fleet up. She took over the part of her dad's job where she was like, "Be ashamed if something happened to you out here on these seas.
Right,
Do you want
right.
protection?" She started doing that. She traded a little with Spain. She smuggled some wine. She was doing the pirate thing. And then there was a shipwreck on her island.
Oh.
And one of the people on the ship that got shipwrecked, he was hot.
Oh, I see.
His name was Richard Burke.
Was he like something else besides hot, like a lord or anything, or is he just a hot dude?
Yeah, no, he was the heir to the McWilliam.
Oh, okay.
which is like the O'Malley, but for the McWilliams.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so his name was Richard Burke, but sometimes they called him Iron Dick.
Oh man. Interesting theme among these nicknames here.
Yeah, Iron Dick. I feel like we're making a porn. So Iron Dick was heir to the McWilliam. And she thought he was super fine. So she was like, hey, let's get together. Let's bang. And they got married.
Oh.
And just the next year, she was out on her boat. She had just given birth to their first baby, a little boy, Tybalt of the ships, they call him. And Algerian pirates attacked her boat that she was on with her newborn baby.
Oh my.
And she came out of the chamber where she had just given birth the day before, still probably actively bleeding because she had just given birth.
Yeah.
And she yelled out to the Algerian pirates that they would have to deal with her unconsecrated hands, meaning since she'd given birth, she hadn't been churched. She hadn't been cleansed of the sin of childbirth yet.
Oh.
So she basically just went out and was like, you want to deal with crazy? Deal with crazy. Like, I have nothing to lose. And she just started shooting.
Oh.
And they beat the Algerian pirates. The Algerian pirates were like, oh my gosh, we made a mistake on this day
There's
attacking
a
this
crazy
boat.
woman.
Yes. Who's actively bleeding and just shooting
Yes.
people. And so she was stressed out.
Yeah.
And there was a rule in Ireland, it was a law in Ireland at the time, that you wouldn't really get married forever. It's like leasing someone for a year.
Oh.
It's 366 days, so a year and a day.
Right. Like a contractual marriage.
Uh-huh. And after a year and a day, either party can be like, no thank you. This didn't work like I thought it would.
Oh, that's very practical.
Yes, it really is. It seems
I
like
don't
your
know why that
style.
ever went away.
And word has it that she came back with her baby. She went to the castle and she locked her husband out. And when he came back on the 366th day, she just kind of yelled from the top, "You are dismissed." So,
I no longer require your services.
exactly. This could be just a made-up story, but it's funny and I like it.
It is amusing.
And here's why it could be just a made-up story, because they stayed married.
Oh. So maybe this was just like a spat.
But it could have been a spat, or it could have been... It seems like maybe after this point, their marriage was more of a legal contract. They were still partners,
Oh, okay.
but they weren't maybe in love. So it's unclear. But they legally stayed married. They just didn't seem to be in a relationship necessarily anymore. Oh, so her husband, Iron Dick,
Iron Dick, yes.
his family engaged in the surrender and regrant.
Okay. Oh, so they bent the knee to the...
They did. They're like, yeah, we'll be like one of your territories or one of your clans, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They still collect the rent from their people, but then they have to pay some of it to the crown.
Right.
And so now he was officially, Iron Dick was officially Lord Burke of England, because you get the title if you play
Right.
nice. Which means Grania was Lady Burke. She has an English title.
Oh.
And she didn't give a fuck. They could attempt to take over Clare Island that she was in charge of, but it would be almost impossible because it's just a tiny little island covered in pirates.
Right.
And she was like, "No, I don't want to play that game. I don't want to give you my land and have you give it back. Like, it's my land. Like, fuck off." And she kind of became a figurehead for Irish independence. People kind of see her as like, she was fighting for independence from England. But really, it was mostly she just didn't like to be told what to do.
Yeah. I mean, it can be both.
Yeah. She wasn't overly patriotic
Right.
necessarily. She was mostly just like, go away. This is already my island. I don't need you to tell me it's my island. In 1583, Iron Dick died.
Ooh.
Grania was entitled to 1/3 of his property according to English law, and she's an English lady now. So, because his family participated in the surrender and regrant, they now follow English laws. And she was, for someone who was like, hell no, I'm not an English person, all of a sudden she was like, really like, that that works. Yeah. No, they have a point. Sometimes they're right. And I should definitely take my 1/3 of his property. She was English enough to get her money. And then she was like out of there. She went back to Clare Island because she's like, forget it. I don't even give any cares about this. Enter Bingham. So Bingham, he's an English guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty high up in the government. And he's an a-hole to the Irish. He's way harsh on them. He's insisting the no mustaches. He's you have to teach your children English. You have to be Anglican. You have to be English. You can't be Irish anymore.
Does he have a nickname?
No. They just call him Bingham.
No.
Yeah, Bingham basically was like, no resistance is acceptable. He was the Borg. Resistance is futile. And Grania's son was killed fighting against him, and another one of her sons joined Bingham.
Oh.
So became a traitor to her, basically.
Oh
So
wow.
kind of she lost 2 sons.
Yeah.
When Grania's son was killed, it was because he was detained by the English, and the English claimed that he was resisting arrest. And then he died.
Oh.
So maybe you've heard that story before, but sometimes it's a little
Yes.
sus, you know?
Yeah, it's very suspicious.
Yeah. And but at this point, Grania is in her 50s. So she's a pirate queen, but she's in her 50s.
Yeah.
She's a grandma pirate queen at this point. Her and the other rebels fought back. They were pretty angry about this whole Bingham thing. They were like, no, absolutely not. And eventually this would be a losing battle because Ireland would, in fact, become part of the United Kingdom. So this fight for independence
Right. It was
wasn't...
ultimately futile. But...
Yes. But they were trying, and they were not liking this new normal. And when her dad died, she did become the next O'Malley in her own right. They picked Grace, Grania. So she is the O'Malley at this point.
Okay. How old is she? Like, she's
In her 40s.
Oh,
Well, she's in her 50s now. Yeah,
okay.
she's...
Oh,
Yeah,
so by now she has become the O'Malley.
yeah, she is the O'Malley. And in 1593, she sent a petition to the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth I, who's now the queen. Like, King Henry was king,
Right.
and then his son was king, and then his oldest daughter was queen, and now his youngest daughter's queen, Queen Elizabeth I.
Right.
And basically the petition that she sent to the queen is, Bingham sucks, he's a bully, he hates Irish people, make him leave us alone. That was the general idea. And the queen agreed to meet Grania, which everyone was like, really? You're going to meet this, like, pirate queen? But she's also, you have to remember, she's the O'Malley. So she's like Irish nobility.
Yeah, she's got status.
She does, but the English people do not think she has status. Everyone's like, really? You're meeting with her? Like, she's a pirate. She's a pirate queen.
All right.
But Queen Elizabeth I, she was like, that's interesting. Like, who doesn't want to meet a pirate queen? You don't see those every day.
No.
Grania did not understand why she might have to bow or curtsy to the queen, because they're both queens.
Right.
One was Queen of England, one was Queen of Pirates.
Yeah.
They're basically equals.
Yeah, the protocol is confusing.
Yeah, she just like, I don't see how she outranks me. She never participated in the surrender and regrants. She still owns her land.
Right.
And at one point she sneezed, and a lady in waiting handed her a lace handkerchief, and she blew her nose on it, and then threw it into the fire. And everyone was like horrified, like, she's a savage. And she's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And they're like, we wash them so we can reuse them. And she's like, that's disgusting. So she thought they were savages too. She's like, yeah, in Ireland, we just like blow our noses and then throw it in the fire.
All right.
Because who wants to deal with that?
Well, it's a cultural
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. And the guards found that she had a dagger hidden on her body when she went to meet the queen.
Oh, no.
She said, it's just for self-defense. She's a lady pirate. You got to have a dagger. And Queen Elizabeth was like, yeah, fair enough. Let her bring the dagger. So she just brought her dagger, and it was fine. They were like, who doesn't have a concealed dagger somewhere on their body? So Grania, by this point, she's now in her 60s. And she said, here's the plan. I don't really want to be your subject. But what I will do for you is I will participate in maintenance on the sea. Basically, she's offering to be a pirate for the queen.
Right.
Like, I'll steal stuff, I'll send you some of it. You just pretend
Yeah.
like I'm not here.
They're negotiating.
Yes, and she's like, look, I just need enough to live off of. I'm in my 60s. I just need a pirate enough that I can feed all my people, my guys, my pirates. You'll get some kickbacks. It'll all be good. And Queen Elizabeth I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And also, here's a tax exemption. You don't have to pay taxes anymore.
Oh.
So she got a huge tax break.
Oh,
They're
convenient.
BFF now. Yeah. And Bingham was investigated for his behavior toward the Irish.
Oh, yay.
Slap on the wrist, though.
Oh.
They were like, yeah, you're a bit much, Bingham. Stop it. In 1594, the 9 Years' War started. And that is the war that Queen Elizabeth waged on Ireland. So during this time, the whole Spanish Armada thing had happened, where Queen Elizabeth had destroyed the Spanish Armada.
Right.
So Spain and England were in a real bad place now.
Mm-hmm.
And Ireland was still kind of friendly with Spain because they had a long history of trading with them
Right.
from like a generation or two before. So England no longer trusted Ireland. They're like, they're going to help Spain come invade us.
Oh, I see.
So she basically went scorched earth on Ireland. Like
Like she invaded, or?
she did, she literally burned it to the ground.
Oh.
Killed men, women, children, everything in her way.
Oh, okay.
Because if they were all dead, they couldn't help the Spanish.
Makes sense.
Sort
I
of.
mean, from a certain point of view, yes.
And it's, even though Grania was older at this point, it does seem that she sent her ships and her pirates to defend the Irish against Queen Elizabeth, even though she was working for Queen Elizabeth. Seems like she was like definitely not on the side of burning Ireland to the ground.
Right.
And in 1603, the same year that Queen Elizabeth I died, Grania O'Malley died in her 70s.
Oh, my. She lived a long life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not bad for
And that's
Pirate
where I'll leave
queen.
it for now. What did you think of Grania O'Malley?
it's quite remarkable. You wouldn't imagine a woman at that time having so much independence
In her 70s.
into her 70s.
She was a granny pirate queen. I love it.
Very interesting. And yeah, I've never heard of her until now. So
Yeah, she's super fun. And a lot of her story we have to take with a grain of salt because after she died, the English destroyed a lot of the records on her, the official records.
Right.
So a lot of it's word of mouth, like passed down
sure.
by her descendants and things. And just her people, her pirate people, telling their children. And so it's a lot of word of mouth. So that's why we don't know for sure everything. Like when she yelled at her husband, "You are dismissed." We don't exactly know what happened because the official records were destroyed.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, those kind
word
of
on the street is
details.
that was said, and word on the street was he figured out a way to at least make peace with her a little bit.
Okay. Well, thanks for telling me about
Thanks
it.
for doing the podcast with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. That was a blast.
That was fun.
Will be remembered.
Thanks for listening.